Coming up today on the Prosperity Nation podcast.
And this is what we run into, like our society is kind of opposite in this way because the whole target is about financial success and money and getting things. And that's missing the whole other half of the equation, which is you got to flourish as a person. Or what is the point of all this? Welcome to the Prosperity Nation podcast. I'm Angie.
And I'm Elise.
And we're glad that you're here with us. We want to dive into this episode about what we always talk about, prosperity. And what prosperity is, it's that balance between flourishing financially and flourishing personally. But before we just dive into the topic as usual, how's Riggs doing, Elise? You have the best mascot ever, our puppy.
He's good.
What trouble has he been in lately?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was staying at my cousin's house for the last week, and he was there with their dog, and he was a nightmare. He got into like so much stuff. I mean, they have two little girls, so they leave stuff everywhere, but oh my gosh, he was like a terror, like peed on the bikes, peed on one of the girls' backpacks.
Oh my gosh. That's the worst.
God. Yeah, I'm like, you're just being a jerk right now. Like, I don't know.
Right.
But he had the time of his life. I can tell you that. He's been sleeping since.
They were the other, what's the other dog's name?
Cheeto.
What was that? Cheeto, that's right. Yeah, they were having a blast.
They were psychotic, but it was adorable. But he's been resting. That was a lot of activity for him.
I bet.
So yeah, he's good. He's super good.
I tell you, I don't have a dog right now, but I love dogs and I've had dogs. And even, I have a lot of lifestyle freedom and I have multiple houses going usually for the last 10 years. And I had the best dog that would just travel with me, LA, NorCal, wherever. And I really missed that. He was a huge dog too, but he'd always go with me. And, he had his place in both houses. So right now I'm like, no, I better not get another dog because I do like to travel overseas. And if I want to stay longer term, if I want to go to Australia for more than a week or two, then I got to think about bringing the dog with me, which I don't even want to go there, or, not having a dog right now. So
or you just find people to watch
use
them.
Riggs. Yeah, true.
Or, because you don't want to take them overseas because then they have quarantine, but...
Quarantine, exactly.
I know. Yeah, but,
Well, this is actually really a great lead-in to lifestyle and, the lifestyle freedom that we talk about, but prosperity. Because if you're not flourishing as a person, then what's the point? And this is what we run into, like our society is kind of opposite in this way because the whole target is about financial success and flourishing with money and getting things and having things and that's missing the whole other half of the equation, which is you got to flourish as a being, as a person too. Or what is the point of all this? People always say, well, you're not going to take it with you when you die. But you know what? That's really true. That's really
that
true.
Is true. And I think the way things are now with social media and all that, they just have such emphasis on the things. And it makes us feel like we need to have the purse and the car and the this and the that, and nothing else matters. And that's like what but society's definition of success is if you drive a nice car, you have a designer bag, you have fancy shoes. And it's sad because it's not.
And it's really hard to break it. Like we all know that, but we still do it. I know I still get caught up in it sometimes thinking, well, why haven't I been able to buy that mansion on the hill or at the beach yet? And I'm like, well, because you didn't want it, maybe?
It's probably the first thing to look at.
Right. But, the truth is I get caught up in that myself sometimes. Yeah. But when I sit down and really say, but would I actually flourish as a person if I had that? And then I think about what it takes to maintain a big house. That means I have to keep my income high enough for the maintenance of the house, not just the house. And, for me, it's like I like to have that freedom to where I can put my money into donating or to, building businesses or to helping my mom or other things that, to me, that's what flourishing as a person means, is that I actually can move money through me. I can move millions, and I have moved millions of dollars through me. And to me, that makes me flourish. And we all have to define what that is for ourselves. It's not my definition. It's not your definition, right? It's like everybody has to create their own definition of what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, or else they're not actually it's not going to mean anything, I guess. If they don't even know what it means, or they don't know why they want the mansion. Do they actually even want the mansion? Probably not, but it looks really cool to post about the, infinity pool over the ocean.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want that? But
right. Well, it's funny because, our society shows us all those pictures, and it's actually the advertising when all that advertising started, and it's to create that want and create that desire with the underlying message of you're not okay where you are right now. You need to be there to be okay. But you're going back to, now that we have the ability to go into debt to kind of create that falsity around that, it's really kind of messed us up. The first credit card came out in 1959.
Really?
Yeah. And if you think about what happened after that, like imagine before there was credit cards and you wanted to go buy a new suit or a new leather jacket, let's say, and you didn't have the money. Like you would have to go to a bank and fill out a loan and probably mortgage your farm to be able to get the $100 to go buy another jacket, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as that changed, it created instant short-term desires. Right. And those instant short-term desires over time have gotten us really confused about what's important to us and how to make decisions about money and what matters. And so then, just like our government, what happens when you get maxed out in debt? Here's some more. Here's some more debt. Spend some more on the cards.
That's true. I mean, credit cards have been able to make people live far beyond their means of what they're actually generating on a monthly, basis. Like you can buy way more stuff, because you have a credit card, or you can, I don't know. It's wacky.
Well, and I know what we talk about often is what happens. Why? I mean, why is that bad? What happens to you as a person when you're $50,000 in credit card debt, or, you've taken out these, government loans to help with your business when you're not thriving, and now you've got all this debt. Or you have a job, let's say, and you're in a job and you've been overspending just because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or you want that nicer apartment or whatever. What happens? That stress traps you, right? Yeah. It's like you get stuck in your job because now you're afraid that if something happens with your job, if you get laid off or you get fired or something, what are you going to do? Because now you've got all this debt and you can't support your lifestyle because you've been overspending.
Exactly.
Right?
You're screwed. So you stay in this job that you hate or that makes you unhappy or, whatever, just because of that reason.
And I think that part, it's that entrapment from overspending combined with this false idea of I've got to have this wealth to be happy, because then people end up working for the money and they forget all about the other side of the equation, about who they are as a person and what that person should be doing in life that actually makes them feel like they're having a satisfying, meaningful, thriving life. They give that up for working for the job, right? Because now they're too afraid or can't leave.
Yeah,
that's out of balance.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally seen that with friends, family. They've or even like they've built up a lifestyle, whether they're in debt or not, might not be, but they've increased the cost of their living, and they're unwilling to make a sacrifice. So they stay in the high-paying job, even though they hate it. They'd rather have this other job that is maybe a little bit lower paying, but they know they'd be happier. But they stay in a high paying job just so they can afford the nice place and the car and the things that they want, even though they would be happier with less. But they're unwilling to sacrifice that because whatever reason.
Yeah, I know that happened to me. Just even during the pandemic when I, had sold my business because, well, that's a whole nother story. But I sold my business and wanted to join a bigger team. And I was working for a big firm, and it was great. And a month later, not even a month later, the pandemic hit. And everybody was working from home again. I'm like, well, I'd already been working from home and mobile lifestyle for 10 years. Like I was joining to get back in the office and be around people again. So we all scattered back out in the pandemic and went out. And it was great. I had a lot of money and I was able to do whatever I wanted to do, bought some houses, did some things. But at the end of the day, I had to reassess. I'm like, wait a minute. This is great financially, but am I even doing the things in life that I want to do that make me flourish? And the answer was no. And so I made a choice to give that up, to do what I wanted to do in life that actually brought me more happiness and less money. But then I just like, okay, well then if you want money and you want happiness, figure it out. And that's why I started this business.
How do you do that though? Because it's like, you say that and it sounds like, duh, just figure it out. Go make more money. Like anyone can do it. But I feel like, even with our clients, like it sounds a lot easier said than done. Yeah,
it's so true. And, just even watching my friends and family, like stay suffering in a job for years, because they're afraid to let go or they can't pay their mortgage, and so they'd be willing to sacrifice their own happiness. And what happens is you get sick, you get miserable, you start blaming the world, and, it's like it's not worth it when you actually can just make that change. But to answer your question, how do you do that? It's also confronting your real finances and being able to say, what am I willing to let go of in order to have that flourishing as a person? Because there might be some sacrifices to do it. And being able to say, okay, fine. Maybe I'm going to let go of this house payment that I have for the freedom of being able to get out of this job I'm miserable at. Why not? Why not? So, but we get really, really attached to our things. And so then it's really hard to make those life changes, which Yeah, I mean, when you're out.
That's true. I know someone who it's not so much a thing, but they would rather live in a tiny studio in a very prestige location. I think it's just to have the zip code, to be honest, than have maybe a slightly larger house or even a little bit extra space that they complain about not having, but not live in this amazing zip code, and they'd actually be paying less. So it's it's so in that case, it's actually the same. They're not willing to not have this and say they live in this area or, whatever.
Yeah, I guess it's going back to checking your motives.
Yeah.
Checking what's important to you. Is debt bad? No, debt's not bad. However, if you're using debt and it's trapping you, if you're overspending your lifestyle and now you can't get into a position where you're actually thriving as a person, then that could be bad. But if you're in debt because you're making investments in your future or in yourself or in your assets, and you have a plan for that to turn around into something better, you're making that investment, then okay, fine. Get into debt, pay it off when you get there. So it really does depend on your mindset and your motives as to whether things like debt or jobs that you're in stress you out or they don't. I very, very rarely get in money stress. Very rarely am I stressed about money. I can have no money. I can have lots of money. It doesn't stress me out because I have this incredible amount of confidence that if I wanted to do something with money or have something in life that's going to help me flourish, I'll pull in that money. And I am unwilling to just let go of my situation to shift it around in order to align things better. And I think that letting go is a big part of it, to being able to get there.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess what you're, I'm trying to figure out what if you don't want to let go?
I don't know.
What are options?
What would happen? Let's give a real example.
Okay.
Let go of what? A house, maybe?
Yeah. Let's just say a house.
So I had a friend who had a beautiful house in Northern California, had a couple acres of orchards. The family was raised there. The kids were all there. And they were miserable. They were miserable because the amount of money that they needed to make to support this ranch and the lifestyle that they wanted to have conflicted. So, for example, the wife was a personal trainer. She didn't make that much money, and she, loved to shop at high-end stores and get all the groceries at high-end grocery stores. And the husband, had an average middle-class salary, but the stress was so high because they wanted the lifestyle, but they wanted to hold on to this really expensive house. And it wasn't until I was helping them realize and confront, well, what would happen if you let go of the house? If you wanted to keep your jobs because it's how you like to be as people, but what if you moved to Montana or something? And they wouldn't do it. They couldn't even conceive of that idea. And so then they were stuck in this money stress, and it was destroying their relationship until we were able to get it turned around.
That's interesting because I guess I've always looked at it as like, if I'm stressed out about the money that I'm making isn't affording the lifestyle that I want, then I just go find out how to make more money.
Well, I think a lot of people have the idea that you need to cut back instead of taking that responsibility of earning more. But how do you do that? I guess it goes back to your original question. You make it sound so easy,
Angie.
Right?
You just do. I don't know. Like, it's not making excuses. It's just picking up the phone. Like, it's not being afraid to just do.
But I think that doing this, though, is another level of confronting, because not everybody can just go out and make, $100,000 a year or more, or $1 million a year.
Yeah.
But if you want to be able to, you have a responsibility to figure out how you're going to. And so, okay, maybe it will take some training. Well, maybe it will take some internships, or maybe it will take studying some programs or gaining some skills that actually are more valuable to increase your income. Because that's what increases income. Now, we talk about that all the time. If you want to increase your income, give more value to other people.
Right.
Well, if you can't do that now, or your level of value that you give does not support the level of lifestyle you want to live, then you have to take responsibility for it. You have to figure out, how are you going to increase your income earning ability?
That's true. And I think, what people don't realize too, kind of like what you're saying about, internship, et cetera, is like, you might actually take a pay cut at first, or you might have to take on multiple jobs. If you need a certain money to pay the rent and the electric bill or whatever, and you can't move or whatever, then you're going to need a baseline. But then if this is what you really want.
At least I know, right? Because when we first started this company, we weren't even making $1,000 a month. Like, there's no way we could live on that.
This is like our third job. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like we understood that this is what it was going to take to get us to the salaries that we want to live with, to the lifestyle we want, and we're not done yet. We're just getting started.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but that's a good point, because I think I even told you like a few days ago. We're like you said, we're not where we want to be. But at the same time, like, I have the ability and the luxury of taking my work and going somewhere else and working from here and spending time with my family. And I'm not checking emails at 10 o'clock at night like I used to. I'm working all weekend, unless I choose to, but I don't have that same feeling like I need to. And so it's like, that's great. Maybe at this moment, I'm not making as much as I had made in the past, but I would much rather be with this lifestyle freedom that you keep talking about, making a little bit less than making more money, but working 5 times more and not being able to travel and not being able to do this and feeling like that's all I'm doing.
Yeah. And I think you were saying too that your old job, where you were for a long time, you were there and you were working a lot of hours and you were making probably good money, but there was no future for you, right? All that hard work didn't actually see a pathway for you to actually get out of the situation that you're in.
That's how I definitely felt. Yeah.
I think that's so important as for business owners to realize that it's not just creating a job for yourself, because then you're just as stuck as if you were in a job before, and probably worse so, because now you got to do the marketing and the sales and the ordering and the books and everything. But it is about really knowing exactly what lifestyle freedom means to you, what makes you flourish as a person, and what makes you flourish financially. And those can fit. You don't need millions of dollars to flourish as a person and flourish financially. You just need to know, what will it take for you to flourish as a person? What lifestyle will give you that freedom? And then how much money would you need to make to do it? And it doesn't matter if it's $20,000 a year or $20 million a year. You get to choose, and you get to take on your own responsibility for it, because it's not anybody else's fault if you don't do it. If you're not happy, it's your fault, your responsibility, and you got to do something about it.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. People just make excuses like, oh, I can't do that. I can't, or this is happening. And it's like, no, like, you're in control of your life. And if you have bills and you need a job, then figure it out. But don't just sit back and complain all the time about how crappy everything is and how it sucks and how you're not happy.
And someone else's fault.
Fix it. Then fix it,
Hey, I spent most of my life really just living in money excuses. And I get it because I always was like, well, if I can't do that. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. And everybody, like, that's the first thing. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. You got to start changing your language and saying, I'm choosing not to. I choose not to. That. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm choosing not to pay my rent or I'm choosing not to be happy. Like, that sucks to hear myself say that.
Right. Right. I've had people call me out sometimes. I'm like, I can't afford to do that. They're like, Elise, you can't afford it or you don't want to? I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to do that. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, so
that's
fine,
hard to say.
It. But you got to own it. Like, don't use can't afford as an excuse if you just don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Why not say I don't want to? Oh, that's just hard.
I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to pay for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Right. That's right. Because it's like having a money conversation is so uncomfortable that we'd rather just use it as an excuse so we don't have to say the truth, which is, no, I don't want to buy your vacuum cleaner because I don't like vacuum cleaners or whatever it is.
I don't want it.
I just don't want it.
But I think people need to come to that truth for themselves too, because they're lying by saying if they're using that as an excuse. Maybe they actually can't afford it, but no. It's pretty funny when that changes things. And then I feel like just by doing that, you feel a lot more like, that's right. I don't want it. I can't afford it, but I'm not going to do it. And like just being okay with saying that. It's kind of fun.
Well, we walk our clients and through this all the time of really pulling that string. Like, what do you really want? What do you really want? Because I know we keep talking about how important it is to know what you want, but it's not just about what you want, the things. It's about what you want to have as a life to make yourself thrive, and every person gets to define that differently. But how do you know how much money you need to have if you can't define that? And this is exactly how I do retirement planning. When we're mapping out your retirement planning, people are often worried about, well, will I run out of money? Do I have enough? And my question is always, enough for what? Right? Because every person, like, if you're worried about running out of money when you're going to retire, you've got to know how much do you need before you can answer that question. And it is hard. It is a hard thing to confront, to really ask ourselves these hard questions about what do I want, not because of what I want to have the freedom to do what I want whenever I want. That doesn't actually help. And that's not true. But what is true is taking the time to sit down and say, what would I need to be doing today or on a daily basis that actually makes me more alive as a person? Because that aliveness is what we're thriving or what we're striving for. Because without that aliveness, we can have all the money in the world and we can sit there in misery.
Yep.
And then say, okay, well, if I don't need that much money, then why can't I have it now? Why can't I have aliveness with what I have now? And that's that first step on the journey.
That's true. Well, I would love to hear any stories, any realizations, any goals that people have about this subject, because it's really important to really sit down and figure out exactly what you want. So it would be great to hear some stories, I think, from our listeners on what that is. So if you have any, if you'd like to share, go ahead and shoot those over to us. It's stories@prosperitynation.com. You can also follow us on social media and go ahead and like or subscribe to our podcast.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear them. I don't want to be on this journey alone. That's what we're here for. Like, let's help each other prosper.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on social media for the latest episodes, updates, and more. Like and subscribe to videos from us on YouTube and find out more at prosperitynation.com. That's it for now. We'll see you next time on the Prosperity Nation podcast.